This is where the journey begins, from the pitch to the pontoon, the places we build, the lives we shape, and the people who keep it all moving. Parks, marinas, communities and businesses, bold ideas, real conversations. It's time to hear what really happens behind the gates and beyond the gangways. Welcome to From Pitch to Pontoon. Today's episode is brought to you by Elite Marinas, the smarter marina management platform designed exclusively for inland and coastal marinas, yacht clubs, dry stack operators, boatyards and boat clubs. From berths to boatyards, Elite Marinas connects every part of your operation, managing your berth holders, bookings, billings, boatyard services, maintenance and your customer relationships, all in one powerful platform built on Microsoft Dynamics 365. Elite Marinas, the smarter marina management solution.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Callum, and welcome to this week's episode of From Pitch to Pontoon. How are we both doing today?
Very well, thank you very
Good,
much.
thank
Well, I
you.
said we, I can't answer for Lisa, but I'm doing very well, thank you.
You're doing super. Why are you doing super, Lisa? For those of you that can't see you, that are just listening to us.
Well, I am working in a very hot country right now, and it's very nice. I have the pleasure of working abroad for 2 weeks before a 2-week holiday. So very, very lucky lady.
Very nice.
That's the way to go, isn't it? Remote working really does
Why
open up.
not? If you can,
Absolutely.
I can sit here and I can do my work and enjoy the sunshine
And
afterwards.
jump in
so
the
why
pool
not?
after work and
Yeah.
have a barbecue. It's the best
My
way to
kids
live.
are having the best time of their life.
Yeah.
Good. We're talking about world travel, and we've got a bit of an announcement to make. We teased it out on last week's episode, but we can officially tell the whole wide world. Lisa, do you want to share the news?
I will let you share that news, Cal, because I think
fantastic.
between
He's
you and
been
I,
so
you are
excited,
probably the
hasn't he?
most excited by this.
I am, because I think it's the only time I'm going to be abroad this year. So we are actually in not in November, in October, we are making our way across the world to Venice. We are going to be attending the ICOMIA World Conference later on this year, and we're going to have a stand there. We're bringing the Elite Marinas technology, the Elite Brokers technology, and we've also got a little bit of a guest speaker spot, but we'll keep that under wraps for just now. But someone from the business is going to be speaking about AI. So that'll be an absolute treat for everyone in the marina world that wants to hear. So you can look out for us in Italy. And if you've got any recommendations for anything that we should do while we're out there, please reach out, because that's all
Callum
I'm
and
doing.
I cannot keep sending each other TikToks daily about stuff
No.
to do out there. So you really have to tell us the best things to do.
Yeah, where to eat, where to visit, because I think we are mostly focused on food as it comes to that.
How long are you out there for?
6 days. We're flying out on the Monday before the conference. We'll have Tuesday to go and make sure that the stand's all set up and everything's looking good. Maybe have a bit of sightseeing, hopefully, if we can get in and out as quickly as possible. Wednesday,
He's very excited, isn't he, Lisa? Very excited.
Super excited.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll be there talking about all things Elite Marinas and Elite Brokers, and then we've got flying back on the Saturday, so we might have half a day potentially on the Saturday to explore a little bit more as well. But it's all very, very
exciting.
It is very exciting, and you never know, we might be able to do a podcast while we're out there from a boat.
Why not?
Gondola.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You've got to do that. Definitely.
That would be
very
cool.
different background as we've fallen into the canal.
Yeah, and that has to happen as well.
I don't doubt it won't, to be honest.
He would just chuck me in for content, maybe. He's like, that's
literally, that's what I was going to say. He will absolutely do that just to get some more likes in his podcast.
Hi, Lisa.
Do it for the TikTok and just shove it.
Yeah. It's gone viral. Oh, why? Because Callum pushed Lisa in the water.
We've not sold any tech off the back of it, but we went viral. All exposure is good exposure. So bringing things back to the UK, we actually caught up with one of the marina operators. We caught up with MDL this week for a really exciting conversation about how they're operating, what they're seeing happening in the industry. It was really, really good chat, Lisa, wasn't it?
I really enjoyed it, actually. And I think what I really liked was his adaptation of the tech and his foresight into what he was doing. And marinas today are not just about, berthing the boats and, cleaning the boats and lifting them out. He was really big on the loyalty schemes, the fitness clubs, and the bit that I really enjoyed was how he was bringing the community in. It was ways of getting younger people into that world that they may seem closed off to, that they may seem it's something that they can't actually reach into, get involved in. And I think that really stood out for me.
There's definitely it's that. I think we're hearing that from a lot of our marine operators as well. Is the shift to experiences and that inclusion, that club. Obviously, I think we spoke to Ian Watkins a few weeks ago, and he was talking about all these marinas that are at full capacity, which is fantastic. But where do you grow your revenue?
What do you do?
That the sort of diversification is really coming in strong, which obviously, Andrew, you'll know when the parks underwent that transformation not that long ago either, to be fair.
Yeah.
Andrew, that it matches parks. Do you not think that it is? It's definitely, you saw that side on a park about.
And parks are exactly the same. You're absolutely right. And it's, quite a lot of the times when parks are full and, the owner base is full and the hire fleet are full, you have to look at those different areas. You have to look at other revenue streams to drive income in. You can't stand still and you need to keep moving. And I think that's certainly one of the things that Tim discusses in the podcast.
And I think it's probably slightly different on the marina side, but where the tech can really help them. Obviously, with a static caravan, the van's not moving, so they're pretty stuck for you're getting $5,000 a year for your site fees. You're done. Whereas with a marina, obviously their boaters are coming and going. So how can they really quickly get that berth on let for 2 weeks just to maximise every spare inch, I guess, of the marina?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think I suppose it's like relating it to the caravan world is like a tourer, isn't it? You've got to keep that space occupied all of the time, even if it's for a short space, a lost night or a lost week or a weekend, you'll never get it back again. And I think that's one of the things that I always learned in my past is that once that night is gone, that's it. You'll never get it back. So make sure you're utilizing the data, the technology, the analytics that you're getting back in. So you're always ahead of the game and you're not, doing things backwards all of the time. And you're always looking at the forefront.
100%.
And to bring Callum's going to get annoyed, but to bring the product aspect of Elite into this conversation, just a teeny bit.
Go on, sell me something. Sell me something.
It's our approach. It's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create the technology. And I was thinking that all the way through when we were speaking to Tim about how, that's exactly what we're trying to achieve. That's what we're trying to do. That's how we're trying to help our customers. It's not about just using it because it's fancy and new. It's about how does this help? How can our customers use this to their own advantage
to generate
their revenue?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I think it goes back to what we were saying. You won't like it now, but it goes back to what we were saying a couple of episodes ago is that our systems are built with our own expertise and knowledge. And, it's just that, this works for that process. Well, no, it works for that process, but it also delivers what you need because we've walked in your shoes. We understand those pain points that you've been through. And so I just thought I'd have my little bit there about our systems as well.
All right. I'm going to say something about our systems then.
Go on then.
Well, I think, if we're going in, we might as well go all the way. Book a demo today.
That's it. There we go. Love it.
I think it's probably just to round off what the two of you have said, I think it's important that anybody listening and is interested in an Elite Dynamics solution understands that our solutions are built for the industry, by the industry.
Exactly.
And whether that be our own employees, we obviously talk to the BH&HPA for the caravan side. We've got British Marine, AMI for the Marina and Taiha as well. So we are collecting all of that information to make everything as best as we can. That is enough on the product side for just now. This is not a sales podcast. Nope. At least it's like one more thing. I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to take a hard pause there before you give anyone the hard sell, and we're going to let Tim tell us all about what's happening over at MDL Marinas. Today's guest is a leader who blends commercial sharpness with deep understanding of people, place and purpose. With a background that spans retail, brewing and public service, he brings a rare breadth of perspective to the marine and leisure industry. Tim Mayer is the Sales and Marketing Director at MDL Marinas, one of the UK's most established and diverse marina networks, with coastal and inland destinations serving everyone from berth holders to leisure visitors. Tim's work sits at the intersection of brand experience and long-term growth, from evolving customer expectations to the role of innovation in a traditional industry. We're diving into the MDL story and we're exploring where the marina industry experience is heading next. Tim, it's great to have you with us. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
One of the best intros I've ever heard, Tim, by the way. What a journey that is going there.
Yeah, all very good.
So, Tim, how did you find your way into the marina world with a background that obviously spanning retail, brewing and local government? How did you end up with the marinas?
Oh, chance conversation, I would say. So, as you said, I've worked in leisure, and it just so happened one of my ex-colleagues gave me a call and they said, about 15 years ago, you said if ever I had something came up that involved boats, you wouldn't mind having a look at it. And I said, well, I did say that. And they said, well, do you want to have a look at it? And I said, that'd be great. So that was sort of the start of it. And then if you fast forward 7 months, I had my first day at MDL.
Fantastic. So what sort of attracted you to that role at MDL?
So a lot of my background has been retail, health and leisure, from sort of private health clubs to working with local authorities, outsourcing leisure provision. So really, they're all transactional, customer-facing businesses. And certainly when you look at local authorities and stuff like that, tend to be pretty historic in terms of customer experience and how they do stuff. So the role at MDL was all about actually how do we get the marina system moving forward? So actually, if we were to take a business which has the sort of demographics it has the products it has, it doesn't tend to move around too much, is there a way you could improve the customer experience of the product itself? So for me, that was a fair bit of a challenge and also something new. And as I said, I'd always said if I could get back to the sea, I would. I was from the Midlands originally, but spent some time living in Plymouth, and at work pulled me back into the Midlands and then up north. And I just said, if I could ever get back down south, I always would. So when the opportunity came up, I snapped it.
Are there any sort of leadership lessons you've brought with you from those earlier chapters that you're pouring into MDL?
I think same as everyone really, as your career grows, your experience grows. I think that the most important thing I think I've ever learned in my career is that as a salesperson, it's an odd thing to say, but don't go too quick. So actually spend a bit more time just understanding what's happening. The move from private health club and sort of a PE world into local authority was probably where those lessons were learned the quickest. so that worked fairly well coming into this environment.
Yeah, I think they are. They're all sort of interchangeable skills, aren't they? Marina, leisure, healthcare. You've kind of brought that in. It's all the same sort of.
Yeah, customers are at the centre of everything we do, and without customers, we're nothing. So it's the same for every business up and down.
For those less familiar with MDL, how would you describe the business as it stands today?
MDL is a really interesting business because essentially, although marinas are what we manage, and in the UK we've got 18 marinas, we've also got a marina out in San Carlos in Spain. It's made up of a huge variety of customer base. So you have your leisure customers, which are your annual berth holders. That covers about 40% of the total income which the company takes on. But then next to that, we have a huge tenant base. So estates cover sort of another 30% of it. There's about 450 businesses in the MDL estate.
Wow.
And that ranges from boat dealers, brokers, mechanics, valeters, designers. And once you start, and food and beverage, obviously, once you start to get into what those tenants are producing, the reality is most of the marine industry at some point is touching one of our locations.
What do you think, has been the biggest change in the journey over the last few years, like that you've seen since you've started working with MDL?
So MDL, it's quite special because, I mean, we're over 50 years old now. So I think this is our 52nd year. We're also fortunate because from an ownership perspective, we've been owned by the same family for most of that. So we have one shareholder who is really passionate about everything that we do, really passionate about the industry, really cares about, I guess, making sure that the locations we have, the services we offer, give the best experience that it can do for all the customers that come in contact with us. Now, what that does mean is we've got an awful lot of data. So we can look back at the last 50 years and see what's been happening in the industry with boat numbers, occupancies, and it's fairly steady, and it's also cycles fairly well. So predictions are good, but kind of all that went out the window in 2020.
Yes.
So in 2020, what happened. And the Marina business since then, I think, has probably had the most volatility that it's seen within its last 50 years, certainly. And that's been driven by a whole heap of things. I mean, customers, they vary in terms of their own, I guess, priorities. But due to things such as interest rates going up at the rate they did over the last few years, fuel prices going up at the rate they did, general living standard prices going up at the rate they did, food, etc., all the things that actually you might on the outside think don't really affect a lot of our customers actually really have, because we certainly have a core of customers that those things don't necessarily affect them quite as much, but actually when you get under the surface, it affects most of us. And there you're beginning to see customers making decisions based on the value they think they're getting out of their assets as opposed to necessarily the price. And that really is where we've seen, following COVID, a real increase in all activity, berthing occupancy, boat prices going up because supply chain meant manufacturers weren't managing to get the stock out, to brokerage doing incredibly well, to being at a point where very soon after that activity dropped back off again. And I think we're probably just getting back to a bit more normal stabilization now. One of the advantages MDL have is because of the locations we've got and the volume of the estate. Actually, customers, if they're trying to see value, we're able to provide that as long as we can encourage them to cruise, visit, and use the vessels. Fuel prices and the volatility we saw sort of 18 months, 24 months ago now didn't help. And interestingly, you can see it immediately in the data. As soon as all that stuff happened, fuel usage stops, visiting stops, and then people are going to question why they're holding on to the asset they are.
Yes.
I think that's been like a trend across everywhere. COVID hit everybody massively, and everybody had to kind of diversify, regroup almost. But you spoke about the fact that you care, like there's a lot of care put into everything, and you do read the data. Do you think those are the points that maybe make you stand out?
I hope so. And I think there's also some other bits within there, I suppose, because it's difficult to stand out, because essentially it's a bit like the gym business, really. If you've got a marina, you've got a boat in a berth, and that's where it sits. But it's what you can add to that and the experience that you can put onto the customer. In the UK, the market is quite different to what you see in some other markets, such as the US or the Middle East. We have a bit of a mix of weather, which means people need to be responsive. We also have sort of really 3, 4, maybe 5 big operators, and then a whole heap of independents and sailing clubs and yacht clubs. And within that, you have a big variety of pricing structures, which will tend to be based on location. One of the biggest things I was keen at, I guess, at MDL was just working out how MDL could differentiate itself from the competitors. Because if you go back in time, you've obviously got MDL Marinas, Premier is probably the next, and then at the time you had Key Marine and Dean and Reddyhoff, and essentially the berthing packages for all those customers was the same. You know, you would cruise between marinas for free. You'd have a set discount off a yard package. You'd have a set discount off fuel, and that's what you did. But all that really did was mean that customers were cruising around their particular marina operator, which isn't particularly helpful. If, as all operators have, you've got tenants on your estate that need to see cross-pollination between users, visitors, they need to have people coming in. So we moved away from the standard and we brought in a loyalty package, which was called Otium. The idea being that customers would just spend whatever they wanted to spend, but whatever they spent, they would get something back in terms of points. It's nothing new. You've had it in retail for years. You can look at Tesco Clubcard, Nectar. It's all of that. But it's only really beneficial if people were seeing the value in those points and were therefore using them. We launched that scheme in September 2020. There are now nearly 29,000 customers registered to the scheme. Wow. And those are visitors, not berth holders. So all berth holders are on that scheme automatically now. It's generated over £4 million worth of discounts, and the burn rate on the points is at 63%. So we're now really seeing customers using these points against the service they want to use, because the problem with a flat discount structure is, depending on the vessel you've got, depends how much value you're going to see in that. And if you've got a 12, 14, 16 metre big motor yacht, being able to cruise for free everywhere is a fantastic benefit.
Yeah,
However, if you look at most customers that have a 6 to 7 meter smaller speedboat, rib, smaller sailing boat, you're not actually using the benefits. So therefore, you might want to have more money off fuel. You might want to get more benefit off yard, or you might just want to get your berthing fees down, whatever it happens to be. So that scheme really set us apart. I think usefully for us, you then had Dean and Redhill and Key Marine link up, and you had the Berth of Boat Folk, which I think they've done exceptionally well, actually. I think what they've done well is they've really set out from a marketing perspective what they're trying to do, how they want to come across. And then Premier have also done what they've done. So Premier have done pretty well on internal investment. They've gone down the route of launching their own boat club, which is useful. We haven't. We've gone down the route of trying to support the external boat clubs and bring them into the estate, which has also worked really well. Boat Folk have gone down the route of bringing everyone in-house. So I think the nice thing about 2024, 2025 is, from a customer perspective, you have got real choice between those operators where you can see the differences, and whatever your preferences is, you're going to get them. And actually, because of the loyalty scheme, from an MDL perspective, I don't really mind if you join Premier, Boat Folk, it doesn't really matter, Aquavista, because what I do know is if you're coming in as a visitor, you're on that loyalty scheme, and actually that means you're spending money, you're generating points, you're getting the value, you just happen to park elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way of looking at it. And Callum, that's something that we were kind of talking about last time, is that it makes customers feel that, again, it's that care thing. It makes them feel that you've got their interest at heart. And I think that really does build that rapport, doesn't it? Like, you know,
it does. And I think it's really interesting that it's not exclusive to MDL either.
Yeah.
You're going, yeah, you're from there, but actually you can come have a look at what we do. You can come stay with us, still get the benefit and the point and those points. That's
exactly that.
I love
brilliant.
that.
If you're berthed at a competitor, the fact is if you come and use the yard, you're going to get 14% of that back, and then you can spend your points back on the services again. So it's entirely up to you how you use them. And what we have seen is a big increase in visitor traffic, but almost more importantly than that, what our tenants are seeing is a better mix and cross-pollination of people buying their services. And that's really what we want to do, because the better that our tenants do, the better the industry's doing. And if that's happening, then you're in a cycle of employing more people into the industry and really building something which helps everyone.
You clearly take a lot of time looking at your customers and you like analysing that data. What have you seen, like, trend-wise over the last few years? What type of customer do you tend to have, and how has that changed over time for yourselves? Have you noticed a change?
So it's a really good question when you talk about changing over time, actually, because I think one thing I would say is trying to get industry-specific data in marine is actually quite tough. What the marine industry doesn't have, which you see in lots of other industries, such retail and leisure, is we're not particularly joined up. So one of the big focuses I had moving into the industry was certainly from an MDL perspective, how do we pull those insights out? And actually, what do you want to do with it when you've got it? We now produce an annual insights report, which we share with all our tenants. The 2025 report's going to be going out, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks' time. We're just signing off at the moment. But in terms of what we do see, it's a real, I won't talk historically because we don't really have the accurate data to show it, but in terms of the customer base we've seen now and over the last 5 years, yes, there's been a change. If we talk first of all about ownerships and boats, well, there's a nice even split really. It works out about 48% of the park going to sale, 48% also then go into power, but if you split that power down, you've got about 32% of that is motor yachts, the rest tend to be smaller power and speedboats. There's about 3% into ribs, and then the rest of the market is split between commercial, catamarans and that type of stuff. In terms of customers, the average age across the group, you're looking around 60 to 64, but they vary between locations. So you tend to get your older customers over across the East Coast. And the youngest marina, I think, is actually Ocean Village at about 58. So you can see there's not much of a move. I think when I joined the industry, there was a big talk about trying to pull millennials in and how do you bring younger people in and But the reality is, unless they're doing incredibly well, very few are going to be able to afford the products that they need to be able to have the services. So I think what we've tried to do with that is a bit more community work. So actually forgetting trying to pull people in at a younger age group in terms of boat ownership, actually as a business, how do you support the communities which you happen to be located in? So that can be Sea Scouts, it's sports teams. We do some work with football clubs down in Brixton. We support Romsey Rugby Club fairly close to the Solent. We certainly help things like Handball Sea Scouts. We've got scouts all across the estate. We look at how we support some of the local yacht clubs and all that type of stuff, because really for us, if we can help that side, then that tends to be where younger people are getting involved. Certainly the sail clubs over in the Solent are fantastic, and you see them, don't you, down the Hamble River most weekends, most evenings. You'll see these little kids in the tippers going straight out of the lasers, and it's really good to see. So
I mean, that's how I got in. We went sailing in Philby on the Broads, and that was how we got it. And I think you'll get people in that way because it almost feels sometimes that it's a little unobtainable. Well, it's not an area to go to, you know?
No, it's exactly that, and it's trying to pull down the barriers. So one of the things we launched, I guess to make marinas more welcoming, was the idea of MDL Fitness. So the idea of MDL Fitness was that, you know, you will have locations and buildings within your estate which maybe they're not utilised as well as they can do. Well, actually, you need your local community involved at the site just to make sure that the tenants keep going more than anything, especially from an F&B perspective. So MDL Fitness was launched in Queensland Battery in 2021, I think we did it. And with the idea being we would pull people in. You know, that gym's now got 500 members, all the cardio kit. When people are using it, the kinetic energy they're using when it's going back into the grid. So it's quite nice from an energy efficiency perspective. We're just looking at whether we launch one in Northern at the moment, or planning has just been signed off. We're just going through some of the detail. But, you know, it is about trying to make marinas more welcoming, but at the same time recognising that customers are trusting us with their assets. So making sure that things are secure, making sure that customers feel that they've got private time, etc. So it's quite a fine balancing act. But where we've got real wins with MDL Fitness is we've also then set up a gig club. So the manager in Plymouth quite likes rowing. So we now have a gig club there, which means all the members of that gig club are now training in the gym for rowing to help with that. So it's nice and circular.
Talking about yourself a little bit more now, you've got a bit of a reputation for building high-performing teams. What's your approach to that at MDL? How are you building up your marketing and your sales teams?
So whenever anyone asks me that, I kind of get a good reputation. So my background has always been in sales, and I mean, whenever you're looking at income generation, you are looking for people, in essence, that are motivated. We're really lucky with MDL. We've got it's a very small but targeted team. MDL didn't actually have a sales team prior to 2021. We brought in the first team. Marketing wise, we're really fortunate. We've just got bucket loads of experience. So we've got someone who looks after brand and PR internally. We've got someone who's in charge of digital. Both have been with the business. One of them sort of 24, 25 years, the other one 17 years. Went through a whole heap of training and development work with those two just to help bring them up to speed with what's around. You know, they've taken to it incredibly well, and we wouldn't have been able to do the sort of digitisation we've done without both of them, and certainly wouldn't have been able to do the additions we've had in the branding side, so that's been great. We've just as well started with a new marketing at Zec, which is great because that's, again, apprentice type level and then building up. And the sales team, well, we just wouldn't be able to do what we do without them. You know, it just allows us to talk to customers quickly. And I think everyone knows nowadays it's really different. So if you sort of go back, if I go back to the good old days of sales, right? If I go back 20 years ago, whatever you were selling, your customer would walk in and you would tell the customer what they were buying. But nowadays, because of Google, customers tend to know more about the product than you do. So it becomes much more about how you get found and what you're doing. So really now the sales team are all about consulting. They're all incredibly understanding in terms of boating. They all know the market well. They tend to be a similar demographic to the customers that we're talking to. And actually the approach they take now is much more about when the inquiries are kicking in, their job now is to consult, make sure it's the best solution for the customer, make sure that actually if they've got the type of boat they've got, they're able to get into the berth in the best possible way. And that may not be about the location they've originally inquired about, but it's certainly about pace. And we know in the market we're in, if we can speak to the customer first, chance of it going elsewhere is pretty slim.
So just on the kind of innovation side of things, you've led digital transformation in other sectors. How do you translate that into a business like MDL? I think like marinas sort of have that reputation of not really wanting to take up that sort of the tech side of solutions. What tools and systems do you use that you found really do help that side of things within the business?
I think it's that word help, isn't it? Because certainly when you look at digital, there tends to be a perception that you're putting digital in for the sake of putting digital in, and we don't like social networks, and God, it's all fake news, and God, deep fakes now, and AI, and it's terrible. But actually, when you start to think about the word help and think about what customers do, generally speaking nowadays, I don't think digital's a dirty word. I think it used to be about 10 years ago in retail because it was all about job replacement and making it awkward for the sake, and networks weren't very strong. Nowadays, networks tend to be pretty good. So for us, it was all about just understanding what's going to help a customer have a better time. And if we could do something to improve that, then actually why not do that? Most people nowadays have a phone, which is helpful. I used to sell phones, and it's interesting actually because I remember when the first Sony came out and it had its camera, and I went, that'll never catch on. And we are where we are. So there we go. So the first thing for me is just understanding actually where customers are. The biggest thing, the start of this, was making sure that the systems all spoke to each other. Because as you can imagine, a business size of MDL, you have got lots of different systems, from finance systems, car parking systems, gate access control, the website itself, any sort of sales systems that would be there. And initially, all of those systems were siloed off. And it took a long time to find out any information while you exported, to upload, to counter, to stick into Excel, etc. So we started on an integration piece. We started on the principle of customer centric. So actually, if you put the customer at the center of everything you're doing, what information do you need to know? Then giving the customer the ability to do most of the things they would do historically offline on their phone. So some practical examples of that might be that if you're a dry stack customer, you look out the window on a Saturday morning and the weather's looking fantastic. Historically, you would have had to call the dry stack team. And if they were lifting boats, you may not have got through. If they weren't lifting boats, you would have, and you'd be booking your boat to be launched. Well, now you would just go onto your website, you'd click into your account, you'd book your launch, notification into the team, you get to Marina, the boat's waiting for you. With the loyalty scheme, it also means that if you happen to be going to one of the F&B facilities, so I don't know, Banana Wharf, Harbour Hotel, the Ketch, the Gaff, Salt Shack, whichever it happens to be, it might be you look at your account and you go, I've got 50 points in there. So now you can redeem those 50 points through your phone, which gives you £50 at points a pound, and you can spend that in that restaurant. It might be that your berth renewal's online, or you're buying a new berth. Now, instead of us sending out a paper contract to you, you're reading through, sending it back with your questions, you'll have it all online to do, and you can manage your account that way. So these are not huge technical advances, but actually from a user experience perspective, it just makes it easier. The challenge, I think, is culturally just getting customers into that mindset, because they do it in the rest of their life, don't they? Everyone is ordering off Amazon. Most people are doing online shopping in supermarkets. We will all do something, but you're right. From a Marina perspective, there is definitely a bit more reluctance, hesitance, and we've got to work around that.
I guess that sort of comes back to the point you were talking right at the very beginning about all these data points that you have and all that information, the story that's hidden within your data. So you know that this customer regularly tries to book their dry stack at this point every time. They've missed a bit, so you can catch them and you can go, before you get to that point, we know that period's gonna be busy, so we're gonna get ahead of it, and we're gonna send you a notification or an email or whatever it is you need to get, and go, hiya, we know that you do this week's historically really busy for that. Can you do it now? And then it helps with the operational side of sorting out your staffing and all that sort of stuff.
It's exactly that. And it's the same for the yard when it comes to general boat lifting. So, how do you boat lifting is an interesting one, actually, because across the marina business, everyone wants their boat ashore for, say, Jan, February, April, and then you'll relaunch as soon as the weather gets good. But actually, if you look fundamentally in terms of most boats, it doesn't really matter whether they're out in October or if they're out in January. You still go and get your work done, but everyone wants it in January, which therefore means all the marine centres are full. You can't get engineers, and it becomes a bit of a nightmare. And so what we've done this year is we're launching a product called Elevate, very much based on the sort of car servicing models. So if you've brought a new car recently, you've probably been someone try to sell you a service pack. You may have brought a service pack. The reason people buy a service pack is so they have a monthly amount which they understand is going out each month, and your car's protected. Boat lifting, certainly in the last 5 years, as external costs have increased, what we've tended to see is the frequency of boat lifts and yard work, rather than it being every year, some customers are now doing 18 months or 24 months. So the idea of Elevate really is to provide a service for customers to bring that yard activity within the berthing contract itself at a preferential rate, which allows them to come out between a date which we know we can fit them in, which means we can also filter out then these peaks and troughs that you get over the year. Customer still gets the same service, everything can still happen as it is, but you can start to smooth stuff out. And to the point on digitisation, we know when the dates customers are lifting and launching, and if it falls out of cycle, you can trigger an automated comms that just reminds them they probably want to do this for their winterization, because if not, it might not be in such a good state in the next 12 months.
It's brilliant. I think it's nice to hear the customer is the customer is essentially the center of that whole system, because that's very much how we like as Elite, we try, and it's what the customer needs, it's how to help. And I think that is when you get the most kind of the best out of any solution or system that you're using, and then you get the best buy-in from your customers as well. If they can see that this is to help you, this is to make your life easier, and at the same time just helps the whole kind of process, you definitely get the best out of everybody, I think.
Well, 100%. You know, the biggest one really, when the restrictions lifted in 2020, what you saw was everyone then trying to cruise down to the West Country to go and enjoy summer in Torquay, Brixham, QAB, whatever it is. But the problem is, when 10,000 people are trying to do it, there's only a finite number of berths. So I guess, online visitor booking is a really handy example whereby people can now book in advance. And also for leaving our network to go to one of our competitors, every time they book out of their berth, so we know it's free for a set period of time, they then get a financial incentive back in when we sublet the berth. There are loads of little things that have been going on which are really helpful.
Where do you see kind of MDLs? Where are you going next? Like over the next few years, have you got anything in particular that you're kind of focusing on?
Yeah, well, so we touched on MDL's age at the start of this, and I think that the big thing for us at the moment now is we have got a lot of infrastructure which is coming to the age at which you'll replace. So we're just going through those products at the moment. If people are at Hamble Point, they'll have started to see all the new offices and facility blocks going in. Northern's just had a load of work done. So I think this goes in two stages. There's the internal network we have, which is having an awful lot of investment just to bring it back up again. Those cycles tend to go on every 20 odd years. And then from an acquisition perspective, as you can imagine, we get approached quite a lot, and it's just seeing if there's stuff in the market that we think is the right investment at the right time. We recently brought a section of land in Southampton. It's about 3.5 acres. It sits between Shamrock Quay and Saxon Wharf, and that acquisition was all around actually how we can improve yard space capacity, manufacturing, because we do believe actually we start to do some manufacturing work in the UK. That's going to support some of the new tech coming through in relation to testing of vessels, and we've got some interesting conversations happening with that space now.
Well, have you seen anything that's kind of pricked up your interest? Is there anything that you're really excited about, or
there is at the minute, to be fair, but I've sworn to secrecy. So yeah, all exciting stuff. So we go.
You need to come back and tell us at another time, Tim.
Yeah, but to final question. This is a question to Tim Mayer as a person. What legacy do you hope to leave in both MDL and the wider industry? Like, what would you? And we were laughing earlier when we were
writing your obituary here, Tim. What are you looking for?
Too young and beautiful to think about it. I think for me, it's pretty simple, really. I just want to leave something in a better state than when I started. And I think what I would say is, we've got an awful lot of stuff we could do better at MDL. I think most marina operators have. I think most businesses have.
Yeah.
But I've certainly been pleased with some of the developments we've made digitally. I think the expansion of our holiday parks has been fantastic. I think the team actually have done incredibly well. So I guess the biggest legacy for me actually would be to leave and have a team of people that would like to come and follow me whatever I do next, or are really happy that I had me there in the first place. I think that would be the best bit, really.
Fantastic legacy to leave behind. Listen, Tim, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time, and we will speak to you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
What a great podcast. I really like that. And I think what I loved most about what Tim was saying is that he sees marinas as not a closed off world. And I think that really sort of resonated with me. And, for all the things that he's done and the progress he's made with loyalty schemes and digital journeys and data, and it all comes with him applying it from other sectors.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? And it's probably something for the whole marina industry as well, isn't it?
I was going to say, if you think about like his journey, where he's kind of been, what he's worked in, industries he's worked in, it just goes to show as well, same but different. Different.
That's it. Exactly.
You may think that you're kind of off in silo and different, but you're actually not. You're all facing the same problems. We've all faced the same struggles, and it just all comes together. And if you just step out the box just a tiny bit and think a little bit off the wall, at least a special, as I like to say when I say that, just thinking, but that's what we try and do as well. And I think it all just ties together.
But it is, and as we said at the very beginning, the parks have gone through this journey already. They've made their mistakes, they've learned, so why not take some of what has worked for them? So why not take all those learnings, apply them to your marina?
I think, and vice versa as well. I think we're 100%. Maybe thinking about it that way, but vice versa too. There'll be things that marinas do that a park can adopt, and
they're very similar industries.
Absolutely.
Very similar.
Which is why we serve both.
Exactly.
All that sort of improving making the customer feel valued, making the services easier, and helping the tenants succeed too. You can't digitize trust, but you can support it with the right systems. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and you can join us on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, or YouTube. Thanks for joining us. From myself, Lisa, and Andrew, we will see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.